Hello, and welcome to this week's Marketing, Branding and Getting the Sale show. I am here today, myself and Jess. No Stephen this week, he'll be back with us next week. But before we dive into today's topics of 6 crucial things your brand needs to thrive, let's quickly do some introductions. Jess, for people who don't know you, what do they need to know?
Morning, everybody. So a consistent brand across all your platforms has been seen to increase your revenue by 33%, which is why we're talking about what we are today. But what do I do? Well, I've got a 6-step brand loyalty process that can make sure that you get that 33% extra revenue within your brand. So there's only 6 steps between you having that consistent brand and getting that 33% extra revenue. The 6-step loyalty process doesn't only do that, it creates clarity, confidence, and control within your business as well. So if you want to see what them 6 steps are, please drop me a message or comment below and I can send you a quick video that explains each step.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Jess. And I'm Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and impact coach. And I help business owners to create a business that they could sell tomorrow, but probably don't want to, using my impact-driven growth model. Now, how could they not want to sell the business? Well, because it's fun to run. It is highly profitable because they and team members are in creative flow and because they're getting to make a bigger impact in the world. Now, if you want to see one of the kind of little secret sauce of how we get to do that, the 5 steps to double your profits, then go to creativeflow.tv/5 steps. That's the number 5 steps, or drop me a message and I'll send you the video. So today we're talking about 6 crucial things your brand needs to thrive. So Jess, over to you. What's number 1 on your list?
So kind of before we do get into it, you heard me say that a consistent brand across, all kind of platforms, consistent presentation of your brand has been seen to increase revenue by 33%. But before we do dive into it, I want to just be clear on what is a brand, because a lot of you might think, okay, what's a consistent brand? Okay, so I need to get my colors, my fonts. Yeah, I've got that. Check. I use Canva. I've got Blanket on there. I'm kind of good. It's a great start, but your brand is not your fonts, your logo, your colors. That's just a small part of it. So that's why I wanted to go through the other 5 elements to your brand as well, because a lot of businesses kind of are focused on that one part of the brand. And again, it's no wonder, because when we start business, what do people say to us? Okay, have you got a brand? I know a good logo designer. Or have you got your brand together? Quick, get a logo so people can recognize you. So as our business grows, that's imprinted in our head. And then not only that, it confuses even more, because a lot of agencies might say, okay, yeah, we offer brand service. You can take our brand package, and it's a visual identity. It's not a full brand.
Yeah.
So again, there's a bit more confusion in the language as well with just how we are in business. So it's no wonder that we think this. So that's why I thought it was a really good topic for us to focus on today, because if you can take anything away from today, it's knowing, okay, well, I need 5 other things within my brand, and we'll help you kind of create them things yourself as well. So let's dig into it. First of all, I'm going to list the 6 things, and then I'll kind of go into a little bit of detail one by one. We can have a chat about them one by one as well. So one of them is your customers, your consumers, your clients, really understanding who they are, actually knowing what's going on for them, not just a stereotypical profile of who they are, or an avatar, a lot of businesses call it. We really need to get into the mind of them. So I'll help you with some advice on that. The second is your culture. So how do you expect people to emotionally engage with what you do if maybe you're not so clear on what you stand for and what's rooted within your business as well? Your message. So stop reinventing the wheel every time you want to do a post, every time you want to communicate with your audience. Know exactly, let your brand tell you exactly what to say, how to say it, what your customers want to hear. So having a message nailed, that's part of your brand as well. Your voice and communication style. So it's really important to own your own unique voice. That's crucial in communicating that message consistently. As we were saying, that consistency is important. Number 5 is your visual identity. So you can see there's so much more that's gone into it before we've even got to the visual identity. And then that's where your logo, your fonts, your colors come in. It's that first impression of your brand sometimes. It's that memorable part of your brand where people can start recognizing you. But you don't want people to just recognize you off your logo. That's why your culture, your message, your voice, that's why all that comes in. And number 6, again, a lot of businesses miss this out, is your brand strategies. So having, okay, we've got this brand, this is amazing, we've got it, we can hold it. Now what? What do we do with it? How do we use it to position our business? How do we use it to grow our business? And it not just be, a profile of who we are. So you need brand strategies in place. So there's 4 different strategies that you can do. So again, we'll talk about that as well. So 36 things. Yeah, there's a lot more to it, isn't there, than just your logo. Morning, Chris. Yeah, so all of these things, there's 3 things that if you're struggling with these 3 things, carry on listening and I'll give you tips on how you can get through them. So 1, if you're struggling to create a marketing strategy or have a marketing strategy that actually works, actually brings you profit. If you feel like you're dabbling into all these different activities and different tactics all the time and you can't really understand why things aren't working and why things are, if that's going on for you, definitely keep listening to us. If you're struggling to find and keep employees that stay motivated and engaged, you might get someone on board that's great for a few months and then for some reason you lose an engagement from them. Or you might just be struggling to fill a spot anyway with someone. Your brand helps with the people that you bring into your business, not only
Absolutely, because you've got that employer branding
yeah,
as well. And I
it's
think a
huge,
lot of
isn't
times
it?
companies don't pay enough attention to that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's
Especially
huge.
in today's competitive landscape, because even with it'd be really interesting to see what happens with the economy, because definitely I think employees have had a lot more leverage recently. In some industries more than others, but definitely been, kind of a big impact in terms of them being able to pick and choose a lot more. That may
Yeah.
change to some extent with the economy, but I still think, just the mentality now of a lot of employees, they want certain things from their employers, and if they don't provide them, they won't come and work for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it touches on really understanding what's going on for people, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
just like as consumers and your customers want different things from brands now, if COVID taught us that we wanted more from the brands that we engaged with. We wanted to make sure they understood what we were going through, that they were there for us, that they weren't just trying to, I don't know, get sales, get money out of us. They were actually wanting to support us, and we want that from the brands that we engage with. But
yeah,
not only as a consumer and a customer, but as an employee as well, we want to be part of that vision, that culture. We want to be able to drive that. And like you say, there is plenty of opportunity out there. So if you're not getting it where you are, there's more. You've got more, more option to go elsewhere. So that's another thing, yeah. And the last thing is just getting motivated in general for promoting your business. Because I know a lot of people, when I've been talking to a lot of businesses recently, the one thing that they struggle with marketing is just getting motivated to do it, because there may be a bit of anxiety, a bit of daunting fear. There's something there that's fueling this. Oh, I'll put that at the bottom of my to-do list. I'll add things above it. And there's no motivation about promoting your own business. You know your product's amazing. You know what you do can change lives, and it's the most incredible thing ever. But when it comes to promoting it and getting it out there and communicating it, there's something stopping you. So if you're going through any of them
no,
3 things, your
yeah.
brand can help.
I think that third one as well is so big, and I want to come back to the first one as well. They were talking
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
brand strategy, but in terms of actually, getting motivated, I think, so as you know, I work with a lot of creative people, and even in like, I was talking to a company recently that's in a much more technical field, so their business is much more kind of, analytical, kind of
yeah,
technological kind of thing. But one of the owners is, is a creative personality, and it's very interesting that, even though they have team members, that even still, that there's been a lot of creating things going on, a lot of creating marketing collateral,
yeah,
yet actually not getting it out there. So, and I think part of that is because, particularly for those creative types of entrepreneurs, the getting it out there doesn't come as naturally. Now, there are definitely methods you can do that. And of course, you can always outsource certain things. But, sometimes you might need to do them yourselves or have a team member do them. And again, that comes back to having the right team members focused on the right things, as part of a cohesive plan, and those accountabilities being in place. So it's not just that people aren't motivated. There can be that resistance because something is out of flow for them. And then, of course, confidence can play a part as well. People's mindset of, oh, this is going to make my company or even me personally more visible. If I'm more visible, I'm going to face rejection. What are people going to think? So there's all that mindset stuff that could play into it. Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing is, like I've talked to quite a few businesses recently where they have a lot of marketing activity going on, but it's all tactical. So there's no cohesive strategy behind it. And actually, in most instances, they could probably do less tactical activity and achieve a lot more if they actually had the right strategies and structure around it.
Yeah, it's hugely important, and we get caught up, don't we, in the task, the day-to-day. We get caught up in that part of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris just saying, I agree, the look for your brand can only be considered taking culture, values, purpose, and how you want customers to feel into account. If a logo doesn't say what you do or isn't clear for the target audience to understand, hang on a second, to understand, then, to understand, then what? It was missing a comma, Chris. I didn't quite read that properly.
But again, if you think about that from your logo point of view,
he's got it in the next comment. He must have pressed return. Then what's the point?
Going back to your logo, if you think about it from that point of view, when if you think of John Lewis's logo, if you just saw John Lewis's logo and you're an alien from outer space and you didn't know what John Lewis were and you saw the logo, how would it make you feel? Would it give you what they do? No, it wouldn't. It's everything else, part of the culture, part of the brand that brings it together, that reputation that brings it together. So a lot of businesses do focus too much on the logo, on the business name, what do you think of my logo? What do you think of my business name? And it's like, that could be fine, but let's look beyond that. Let's make sure everything else you're doing is supporting that. And let's make sure that, you're making the most of all the other stuff as well. Because how can you, it's a lot of pressure to expect your customers, your clients, partners, employees to get that spot on feeling as soon as they see your logo. It's a lot of pressure to put on a logo, isn't it? So we need to make sure that it's got all the other stuff to it as well. So it's a great point, but we do need to look beyond that as well.
Definitely. So which of these 6 things do you feel people need the most help with, that they either aren't aware of or they're making some kind of mistakes around them?
I think doing them in the order that we said. So looking back through the comments and doing them in the order that I said is hugely important. So doing that research on your consumers, clients, customers, whoever they are, making sure you really, really understand them. That's the first step to it. And even if you think, I know my customers, go back to that point, please. Go back to your research, go back to your guidelines and make sure it's relevant, make sure it's up to date and make sure it does have all them details in there. Because a big mistake that I see around that, from the outside when you're delivering any work, any marketing, any communication, is businesses leading with logic and leading with rational reasons that they expect the customers to buy into them. So leading with how many years in business you've been in, what ingredients is in your products, how it's manufactured, where it's manufactured. Yeah, all great points. Yeah, all really good to talk about. But first, we need to get into the emotional part of it. We need to stand out emotionally. You might have been in business 20 years and your competition might have been in business 20 years. How do you make that different? How do you stand out from that? So we really need to understand emotionally what's going on for your customers, not just a profile of them. And the reason we need to do that now is because our customers mean so much to us. They mean so much to the business and the reputation. We're in the age of consumers. We're in the age of people. We need to look after each other. If we look at that timeline, if we go way back to the age of manufacturing, Ford really anchored against that. They've created all the cars and, what else they created back then. And they really anchored against doing their own manufacturing. And then we moved on to distribution. So the age of distribution, we could all of a sudden transport things, to different countries, to different, everywhere. DPS, really did well then. They really anchored against that and knew the importance of distribution at that time. Then we moved on to intelligence. You have Google. We all of a sudden had the internet. We could Google anything we want. We could look at anything we want. We can research anything we want. And then now we've kind of almost gone past that, and we want to go back to, knowing where our food, where our things come from, why people are doing the services that they're doing. What is it that's behind that fuels them? How can you get involved in that? How can you make a difference? So that's why now it's really important to make sure you know your people really well.
It's that era of kind of hyper personalization as well. People want things customized. They want to feel connection, probably in a way that's never been before, probably just because there is just such a plethora of messages and noise out there. People crave connection. And so if you can provide that connection, I mean, I think that there is a balance as well to what you're saying about the leading with emotion. So I totally agree. You lead with emotion, hook people in, get them to feel connected, but then you do need the logic as well.
Yeah.
So don't forget about the logic, folks. And that's where, the innovation, your differentiation, your market dominating positioning comes in. And actually just making that distinction as well between, your market dominating positioning in terms of, what does your business do to be different, to be really focused on solving, your ideal customers' pain points and aspirations, and then a market dominating positioning statement, which is about the message part of it. So I think it's really important to make those things clear. Morning, Jonathan. Jonathan's making the point. Prefrontal cortex and limbic system. Absolutely. We need to tap into how our brains work. So for those different things and understanding, yes, you lead with emotion, but then follow that up with the logical things behind it as well.
We've actually talked about behavioural science before in a live as well. So I'll, whilst we're on, I'll find a link to that and put it in the comments, because like Jonathan was saying, it's crucial to understand how our brains work and what's going on for us. If I tell you an example from your point of view. So I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. So when we're in a supermarket doing our food shop and we're walking down the aisle, I always use orange juice because it's something that I look at and I make sure I get the right one when I look at orange juice. So you go down the aisle, you'll go, okay, I need some orange juice this week. You'll pick some up. I'll normally, gravitate towards one. I'll pick it up and I make sure that it's not from concentrate, so it's actually got oranges in it, and it's in my price range. I don't want to pay £5 for a carton of orange juice. I want to make sure it's in my price range. So once I've seen them two things, I'll go, that's the one. I'll put it in my basket and I'll walk off. So from that experience, when we've experienced that, we think we've bought that orange juice because, one, it's had the right ingredients. It's two, it's been the right price. That's what's going on at the front of our mind, in the conscious part of our mind. But really, that brand has done so much more to us subconsciously for us to reach and go towards that. So 3 random reasons that it could be that links to the behavioral science part is maybe the way that they've designed the packaging, maybe the colors, the shapes, the fonts they've used gave you that message of natural ingredients being in price range. So subconsciously, you'd already ticked them boxes and you were picking it up that way. So maybe it was that kind of psychology, the colors, the fonts, the shapes. Maybe your mum bought that same brand, and every time you open the fridge, subconsciously you get that sentimental little feeling of, that little bit of warmth of home every time you pour that orange juice, that brand. Maybe that's going on in the back of mind that you don't think of because it's just a habit. Or maybe that advert has done, or maybe that brand has done a TV advert or something that, I don't know, has come on right in the middle of Coronation Street, and subconsciously you've taken it in and banked that information. So then when you're next in the supermarket, you pick it up. So there's all sorts of stuff that goes on before we get to the transactional part. So it's no wonder we forget about that. We launch a business, we start selling products, we go, right, okay, so I need to tell them how much it is, I need to tell them what ingredients it is, I need to tell them how many years of experience I've got. Yeah, we do, but later on down the line, later on down the decision-making process, the first part of that decision-making process is just tapping into that subconscious and tapping into that emotional desire to inspire. So yeah, which helps.
I think, yeah, I think it's also important to make the distinction between companies that have, like, typically if something's in the supermarket shelves, and not always, because obviously I know you work with some of the smaller businesses that are product-based brands that may well have be on those supermarket shelves, but a lot of the time those are larger brands, and they can afford to spend a lot of money on brand awareness and creating, the focus there is very much on the creativity and repetition, and they have the ability to do that. Smaller business owners, so I'm often working with service-based business owners, and so they don't have the budget to do that, so they have to make sure that they're connecting emotionally and providing the logical reasons, in a different way than the big brands. So I just want to make sure people don't feel like, oh God, well, how do I compete with that? I can't.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, Jonathan's just asking a question here. Beg your pardon, Chris is asking a question here. What's your advice around comparing against competitors if you're creating or developing a brand? Should you follow them and compete, or follow your own path / trust yourself? So, Jess, what do you have to say? And then I'll dive in.
Yeah, I knew you would want to say to that as well. Focus internally. Don't focus externally. So we get into the habit of focusing externally. And again, going back to behavioral science and how our brains work, we like to compare. So whether we're comparing ourselves or whether we've gone out for a meal with someone and we're comparing our food to go, oh, their lasagna looks a little bit better than my pizza. Whatever it is that we're doing, we're comparing. So that it's really hard to get out of that habit to compare against competition constantly. Now, you do have to check in and see what's going on in the world. You need to know what's going on in the market to find your sweet spot, to find where you can fit and be different. But don't focus on that. Finding what's unique to you. How do you stand out? Starting with your why is a really good way to do that. Researching Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, really finding out what it is that you believe in, what it is you stand for, and why you're there in the first place. And then you can maybe see how you can position that in the market. I know if you are struggling with that, that is a huge one for Una to help you with the marketing position. So I'll let you swiftly take over that one as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. I think those are great points. It's interesting because the first point that you made was about your customers. So I think when you're creating or developing a brand, I think that's the number one place you got to start. So what is the pain point, or pain points that your solution solves? So that's where you got to focus first. Then you can look at, okay, well then if I'm going here, where do I sit against my competitors? Now, actually, a lot of the time, I had someone recently on a session say, we were talking about market dominating position. I was kind of bringing them through my Profit Accelerator software and all that, and so asked the question, so what is it that differentiates you from all of your competitors? And they said, well, having watched your video and looking at my competitors, nothing. We're all the same. That's what it looks like when people look at us, and that happens a lot. So you need to make sure that you are looking at your competitors. What are they focusing in on? Are they just all a sea of sameness? In which case, brilliant. It's going to be so much easier for you to stand out. Or do they have different things that are making them stand out to their pocket of people, to their, and this is more than a niche. Niching is great and it's often advisable, not always 100%. It does depend on the business and what it is they're selling on, but definitely being specific is absolutely imperative. So you've got to get into those specifics and then see how does that distinguish you. And a lot of the time, that's where innovation comes in as well, because it's not just about looking different and looking better. It's about being different and being better. So a lot of time when I'm working with clients on their market dominating position, it's about actually creating that differentiation, innovating to be better. And sometimes it's just little tweaks. Sometimes it's about, wow, you do that, you don't communicate about that, you never talk, I didn't know that. So sometimes it's about sharing what you do where there already has been that innovation and differentiation happening. So there's a concept, we talk about internal reality and external perception. So internal reality is why your customers love you, why they're loyal, why they keep coming back, why they think you did a great job, why they rave about you to their friends and contacts. But a lot of the time, people's internal reality bears no resemblance to their external perception. And so that external perception, your prospects, that's what they think is real. It may be a perception and it may not match the internal reality. But this is why business owners they fool themselves into thinking that everyone out there knows what their internal reality is. And they don't, because they haven't done a good job of communicating that. So part of that is about the kind of work I do, and part of that's about the work that Jess does. So, they work together very well, in fact.
And I think if you miss this step, or if you even just look over it, or you think, oh yeah, that'll do, that's how I stand out, it bites you in the long run, doesn't it? Because like we were saying about comparing, we like to compare, and if you're not giving your customers anything to compare you from competition on, what are they going to compare you on? They're going to try and find your price list, and they're going to put them next to each other and go, okay, who's the cheapest? I'll try them first.
Absolutely.
Because we need to compare something to justify a decision. So so this kind of goes beyond as well, the culture and bringing people involved, and that's all really crucial. But we don't want people to start comparing you on price. We want to be able to see that, okay, this is what I get out of you, and so that's what being unique and standing out kind of does for you. So
you don't give those buying criteria, those comparative criteria to your clients, then they will always revert to price. So if you want to stop competing on price, this is what you need to do. Absolutely. So Chris, I hope that's answered your question. He's got another one here as well. Does communication style include channels and accessibility, or is it around tone, etc.?
So there's the two different ones. So you've got your tone of voice and your communication style, which are different. So your tone of voice, like you say, is kind of how you're coming across, that culture part coming out in your voice. Your communication style is the language you use and how you communicate that. So we've all done a lot of work on our tone of voice. Presumably it's one of the first things we kind of look at when we look at our brand, and we might have put together some bullet points to go, okay, I've got 5 or 6 bullet points, that's my tone of voice. I'll send that over to the copywriter, or I use it whenever I'm using my copy, and that's fine. But sometimes we need that little bit more to help us be consistent. So your communication style helps you differentiate how you say what you say. So for an example, let's go away from products and let's go to an accountant. Okay, so if you're a small accountant, so you're a small to medium business, you're service-based business, you might be an accountant that is very analytical. So whatever you communicate, you use facts and figures. You're straight to the point. You say it in a not beating around the bush kind of way. You just say how it is. Yeah, direct. There we go. So you could be an accountant that is very direct and analytical and kind of point driven. But you could also be an accountant that's got an expressive communication style. So instead of saying, okay, save 98% on tax and do X, Y, and Z, I don't know, I'm not an accountant. Instead of saying it in that kind of language, you could say it of, imagine sat next to the beach, drinking a pina colada with an extra holiday a year because you've saved so much money on your tax. So they're two completely different messages. One's attracting people that is driven by them facts and figures and can really see that. The other is communicating to a person that's very visual. So they're getting into their mind and going, imagine that. Oh yeah, I need to do that. I'm invested. So there's different ways of communicating. So you've got your tone of voice and your communication style. If you want to do a bit of research on this yourself, your communication style can tap into personality profiles. So I know we've done a live on this not so long ago. So look back at that. Una does a lot on personality profiles. But you've even got like disc profiling, things like that. And that kind of tells you how you communicate and what you drive off communicating best with and how you like to be communicated to. And it kind of taps into that a little bit, because when we build a brand, we want to make sure that your business is like a person on paper, basically. So we want to make sure that your business can stand alone as a human, because we connect with people. So that's the aim of making your brand kind of more personable, and having that communication style just really helps with that. So yeah, two important things to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points there. Thanks, Jess. Chris just asking as well. So yeah, focus on promoting your own USPs rather than comparing or adapting to be like others. Yeah, exactly. Adapting to be like others is the worst thing that you could do because you want to be different. There's a saying, different is better than better. Okay. So, and I think that's very powerful, because it suddenly makes people go, oh, because a lot of the time, small and medium sized business owner, that they're going, well, I know I'm better than the competition. Well, that's okay, but how can your prospects really know that? Whereas if you stand out as being different, then that attracts their attention, particularly when that difference taps into their pain points, their hot buttons, because that's how our brains work. We only care about what's relevant to us. We always need to be asking. Like, for my PR days, back when I used to work in agencies, the question we always had was, what's in it for me? That's what we have to be writing to. What's in it for me? What's in it for the journalist? What's in it for their reader or viewer or listener? We need to be doing that. What's in it for them? So we've got to be tapping into that. So yeah, different is actually better than better. Now, obviously, with integrity, you want to be doing the best job possible for your clients. We're not saying don't, but yeah, it's just that thing is so important. So yeah, Chris is also saying, I always like your example of Pepsi and Coca-Cola comparing against one another. Brands should be built on emotion. So that's one of yours, Jess, isn't it?
Yeah, so that kind of taps into the strategy side of things as well. So we mentioned that number 6 was your brand strategies, and we're naturally talking about competition and how to stand out. So I'll talk about your competitive brand strategy. So there's 4. One of them is your competitive brand strategy. So it's great. Okay, we know our USP. We know we're different. We can put it on a wall. We can put ourselves far away from our competition. But what if our competition all of a sudden said, well, I do that as well, or oh, I'm better than that, or oh, I can do exactly that but for cheaper? What happens if we get we get attacked like that? Attacked is a very strong word, but it can happen. So Pepsi and Coca-Cola, yeah, are a great example of that kind of happening, because Pepsi kind of give little jibes to Coca-Cola quite often. The Streetwise campaign is still very popular now. I go to the cinema quite often, and it's Pepsi's all adverts are always on at the cinema, and the street campaign has been on where, here's a can of Pepsi and here's a mysterious red can. Taste both and let me know which one is your favorite. And then I don't know, a huge percentage say Pepsi, and they go, oh, look, we're the best. And they're obviously talking about Coca-Cola. Supermarkets are doing the same at the minute. I read that actually Aldi have to relook at what they're doing about the cutting costs, because it's actually eating into their profits. So I'm going to look into that a little bit more. But a lot of other supermarkets have been attacking kind of Aldi and going, why go to Aldi? You can come to Tesco and get Aldi prices. There's all this stuff's going on. So your competitive
competing
strategy,
on price, there is a race to the bottom.
yeah,
Even when you win, you lose.
yeah. And that's it probably becoming apparent with I only read it yesterday about Aldi, and I've pinned it to have a read of the article. So we'll see. But yeah, having a competitive strategy helps you be able to react in a right way to that and be able to adapt to it. So when Pepsi first launched that campaign, Coca-Cola panicked and they were like, oh my God, no one likes our drink. Our recipe is old school. We're going to really kind of get damaged here. Pepsi are going to take over and we're going to go bust. Their mind probably jumped to all these rational conclusions. So they went back behind the scenes and kind of developed this new recipe, and then launched it and was like, hey guys, we've got this great news. We've got a new recipe. You'll love it. It's the best thing. And people hated it, absolutely hated it. It's crazy to think now, but there were riots in the streets. You know, news reporters stood in front of crowds with big signs. People were pouring the new Coca-Cola down drains. Like honestly, the uproar was absolutely crazy. So Coca-Cola had to soon go, okay, we messed up. Don't worry. The new recipe's gone. Original, it's back. The Coca-Cola original's back. And over time, they've adapted their culture and the communication, and they've built that reputation back up. But people really hated how they reacted to that. So we need to be aware of what, I know, again, like we're saying, they're really big examples, but even from a small business point of view, we need to be aware, okay, how would we react if these things happen? Do we attack? Do we not? Are we in a challenging brand, or are we stay by our core values kind of brand and kind of build our core values? So if we do get some friction, it just bounces off us because we've built that culture internally. You know, what's the best angle for us? What's the best strategy for us?
Change.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a large company and you want to change your culture, it takes years and a lot of dedicated effort,
Yeah.
and a lot of time companies fail to do it. So,
Mm.
you know, think carefully, folks.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
your culture isn't working, you know, if the culture isn't driving you towards the results you want, then absolutely you've got to focus on changing it. But, you know, to do it in a kind of knee-jerk reaction to competitors, not a good idea.
No,
Yeah.
it's a
So
real
what's number two?
downfall. Yeah.
Mm.
Sorry, what was that?
So what's number two, Jess?
Number two. Number two for what? Where are we at?
Oh,
The
you're talking
brand
about
strategies.
brand strategies?
Yeah. So yeah, losing mind, going off on tangents, thinking about Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and kind of forgetting where I'm at. So yeah, your other brand strategy is looking at your situation for your business. So it's all good to go, okay, we've got this polished brand, we can do this marketing, but is it actually driving you towards your business goals? Is it actually matching up with your business plan? Is it getting you where you want to be? Are you talking to the right people? Do you need to talk to the kind of early adopters? You know, do you need to get all that, you know, that loyalty following first? Or are you in a position where you can talk to the masses? Are you completely different strategies for both of them markets? So where is your business? What situation is your business in? And how can your brand give you a bit of a leg up to that next step? So that's the thing that kind of ties it all in together as well. Because a lot of the time we can go off on little tangents. Oh, this marketing strategy looks good. Oh, this marketing technique looks nice. Oh, everyone seems to be doing this tactic. I'll do that. And we forget about our business plan. We forget about our vision, our goals. So your situational brand strategy, just make sure that your brand is helping you towards that and it's not holding you back and gonna, you know, kind of prevent any growth in the long run.
Great.
Number 3 is your consumers. So a consumer strategy. So again, we've talked about the huge importance of knowing your consumer on that emotional level, really knowing what's going on for them, so you can step in and kind of be the hero and be, I've got this solution. Again, we've said before, you don't want to be the best kept secret. We want to be that brand coming in, and we want people to know what you can do. So it's all great knowing this about our customers, but what's our positioning to them? How are we showing up to them? What is it that we're doing to get their attention? And again, depending on what part of the journey you want to increase, what touch point you want to increase, you know, that strategy is different. So again, looking at your consumers, your customers, what's going on for them, and how is your brand positioning in front of them. So that's a strategy in itself. The last one is your strength. Okay, so I did a video on this last week. So if you're enjoying this, I do plenty of little videos throughout the weeks touching on little things like this. So give me a follow or connect with me. But the video that I was talking about last week was about your strength. And the biggest myth within business is the more strengths you have, the stronger you are. So when someone might say, okay, list me your strengths, you go, oh, I'm good at this, that. You know, you've got all these things. But again, when we touch back on behavioral science and how our brain works, if there's too much going on, we get too confused and we switch off. So to really thrive, to really kind of stand out, we need to anchor against one strength. Having multiple strengths just weakens you and does the absolute opposite effect. So your strength strategy can really help. Okay, what is your strength and how can you use that? How can you anchor against it? So again, just to give you a little bit of a head start, if that's something you want to look at, There's 4 strengths. When I do the strategy with my clients, there's 4 different strengths we can choose from. So 1 is price. Have you made your product or service affordable for people? Being cheap isn't always bad. You know, McDonald's kind of thrive off
Walmart.
being affordable. Yeah, creating
Yeah, if your whole
processes.
business is designed like Walmart's is designed to be the
Yeah.
cheapest, then
It's
you
a
know,
it's a good strategy once you've focused on it, and
yeah,
you've created the processes, the operations, you've done everything, the hard work to make it cheap for people. So is that a strength? You know, it could be. Is it the product, the quality of the product or service? What's included in it? Is that different? You know, Rolex, again, you know, I use these big brands because it's easier for us to
yeah,
differentiate, but Rolex, you know, the quality of their product gets them standing out. So is it that? You've got the experience, the customer experience. So Airbnb, you know, are all about the customer experience. Netflix are all about the customer experience. Is that your strength? Or you have your story, your purpose. What are you about? Why you created your brand in the first place? You know, what is it? What gap that you're filling? Apple really kind of strive off their story, building that community, making things simple for everybody. So if you're struggling with that, think about them 4 things. Think about what one of them 4 things stands out for you. Because if you, I don't know, make chutneys, if you make chutneys and you're selling chutneys and you're saying, well, we use the best ingredients, we grow our own ingredients, how better can you get? Oh, here's 50% off and you can get this jar for £1. People think, oh, wait a minute. If all that effort is going into it and then you're offering this jar for £1, is it really what you say? I'm confused. I don't know. I don't get it. So we fall into the trap again of competing on price. So really understanding your strength anchors you against that you're good for, and keep that communication on that one strength. So yeah,
fabulous.
I really enjoy that one. I'm really passionate about that one.
Absolutely. Great. Yes, I think that we've covered a lot of stuff there. So if if you found what we talked about here today in value, reach out, connect to Jess, talk to her about brand stuff, connect to me, talk about, your business strategy, your marketing strategy, behind all of those things, or just simply about getting stuff done. Sometimes people have got all the ideas and the strategies, but they're not actually making them happen. So yeah, we'll be happy to have a chat with you. So feel free to reach out and make sure that you click the notification bells on our profiles so that you get to see our posts. We share a lot of value, and we will be here same time next week. So bye for now.
Bye, everyone.